Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Cinematic Venom. Today I am joined with Dave, and
Hello.
this, yeah, and today we're going to be discussing the second book of the Harry Potter series, Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. This time they didn't change the title for America.
For one. Although I did read that they still changed certain words like trash
Yep.
can became side no bin became trash can, pavement became sidewalk, that kind of thing. So
Again, how would they not know? It makes no sense.
yeah, again, apparently the American populace don't have access to Google. Okay, so just to give a bit of background, so the book came out on July the 2nd, 1998, in the UK, and then a year later in 1999 in the US. Again, it was a big hit. Sold a lot of copies. I don't have a fixed figure with me right now, but we'll flash something on screen for for the editing stages. I guess the very first thing we should do is just give our general thoughts. So, what did you think of this book, Adalynn?
Um, it's actually better than I remember. But then again, it's damn near identical to the film.
Yeah,
So it may
exactly.
just I may just be biased because I love the movie so much, but
Yeah,
this is actually one of the least problematic books of the series. Like after you get past like the first chapter or so,
yeah,
like
because there's
after
still more.
yeah.
The Dursleys are fat, lol,
Oh my God.
which is just kind of the running joke of those opening few chapters.
Yeah.
Um, but like you say, it is very like creepily similar to the film, even more so than the
Mhm.
first one was.
I found this one a lot easier to get through than Philosopher's Stone
I can see that.
somehow. I think the mystery was handled like a lot better, like the reveal that Tom Riddle is Voldemort. It still gets me to this day.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like, well, because in the first book, I think obviously because it's an introduction, they have to do a lot of world building, they have to do a lot of setting up who these characters are. So the mystery was kind of taking a backseat to the introduction of the world. Whereas in this one,
Yeah.
it felt like the mystery was really front and center the whole time because you're
Mhm.
wondering, like, why does Dobby not want Harry to go to Hogwarts? Why are kids turning up petrified? Who wrote the message on the walls? It's like there's lots of things to keep you guessing throughout the whole. I was going to say runtime, but that's not really applicable to a book in the
Yeah.
same way.
Yeah. It's like the only thing Rowling is good at writing.
So just to begin at the beginning, the first chapter is called The Worst Birthday, and it's mainly consisting of Harry and the Dursleys interacting with each other. The Dursleys are having someone over, just like they are in the film. Mr. Vernon, Mr. Dursley's trying to broker a deal with a drill manufacturer of some kind because he works for a drill company. But it's a good way to start the book, kind of re-establishing Harry's setting and the fact that he's really, really not happy at home. Again,
Um,
why he has to keep going home is kind of a mystery at this point.
it's set up like earlier in this chapter that he has not gotten any letters from his friends at all, and he's had quite a lonely summer. And I'm trying to, where is this? It's the scene where like Harry's like sitting in the backyard and he actually sees like a pair of green eyes in the bushes and it's actually Dobby, but we don't know it's Dobby yet.
Oh, I
Um,
think I missed that. I didn't notice that.
yeah, I've got it right here. Harry suddenly sat bolt upright on the garden bench. He had been staring absent-mindedly into the hedge, and the hedge was staring back. Two enormous green eyes had appeared among the leaves. And right after that, Dudley's like waddling towards him. Did they mention he's fat?
Once again, yeah. But
Hmm.
I mean, it's to be fair, that description, it's a good way to kind of immediately be like, oh, wait, what the fuck? Somebody's looking at it. What's going on? Um, but it is a great way to start the book. Then the next chapter is where Dobby speaks to Harry and he says, Harry
Yeah.
Potter, you can't go to Hogwarts because shit's about to go down.
Yeah. And the movie is like it's like almost word for word from the
Yeah,
book, I've noticed. Like what terrible things? Who's plotting them? That's literally in the movie. Like I gotta
yeah.
give Columbus that. It's literally like beat for beat, except there's like an additional moment where he Harry actually gets a warning from the ministry because they think he used magic outside of school, and the Dursleys find out he's not allowed to use magic outside of school, and that's when they lock him in his room.
Yeah, it was interesting that they didn't. I didn't realize that that wasn't like a widely known thing because in the films, I guess you just kind of assume that they know he can't use magic outside of school, but they don't
Yeah.
really go into that too much. Also, interestingly, and it's a thing that occurs in primarily the first two films, where they have to make everything as like hyperactive as possible. So in the book, the scene where Dobby drops the cake and gets Harry in trouble. In the book, he just drops the cake on the floor. In the movie, he like picks up the cake with magic, floats it through the air. Nobody, or does someone notice it? I can't remember.
They actually do. I think all the Dursleys
Yeah,
notice.
yeah. The Dursleys notice it, and then Dobby drops the cake on the visitor. It's like it wasn't enough to just have him drop the cake. They had to make it as hyperactive as possible, and it's just kind of
Um,
like
yeah,
okay,
but to be fair, the book did it as well because immediately after, like when Harry gets that letter, it's like like a huge owl just comes into the Dursleys' home out of nowhere, and the visitor, Mrs. Mason, she's like deathly afraid of birds and like runs out of the house screaming, and it basically just ruins any chance of Vernon getting that promotion. Them locking Harry in his room is even more egregious in the book because they even starve him,
oh yeah,
which
they
is
do, don't
crazy.
they? Because they don't give him
Yeah.
any. They give him like soup or something as just some.
Yeah, and it's like the coldest soup in the world.
Yeah,
Like,
this is not just negligence. Like this is just borderline, not borderline. This is just child abuse.
yeah, it is child abuse. I don't think Lily and James would approve of this, guys.
Yeah,
Um,
just going back to the over the topness. I notice in the
mm,
scene where they fly the car from the station to Hogwarts. So in the book, they just fly the car from the station to Hogwarts and they crash into the Whomping Willow, and that's
mm,
about where it ends. In the movie, they drive the car, it lands in front of the train, then Harry's dangling out of the car, and then they land at the Whomping Willow. The Whomping Willow smashes it to bits, and it's like, oh fucking hell. It's like I
yeah,
understand wanting to make it more cinematic, but it feels way more over the top, whereas in the book it's a lot more subdued.
yeah, it does. The chapter 3 is when we get to the Burrow, and there's like one difference when it comes to Fred and George and Ron rescuing Harry. They actually go into Harry's room and they pick the lock to his door so they could go to the cupboard under the stairs and grab all his
Yeah,
things. And they're like, "Oh, it's something we learned from the Muggle world."
yeah, it's just like Harry Potter suddenly becomes Scooby Doo for a
Yeah,
bit, where they're just tiptoeing through the Dursleys' house. I mean, one difference I noticed is that Mrs. Weasley is way angrier than she
oh
is in the
yeah,
movie. Like in
that
the
is
movie, she's
true.
just kind of like, you come here, you silly boys. Whereas in the book, she's like fully just losing her shit, and she's like, have you any fucking idea what I have to go through? And it's just like,
Well, imagine if she actually said it like that. That would have been even funnier. But
yeah,
um,
PG rated books, we can't do that.
yeah, I know. Um, uh, Ginny's crush on Harry is even more apparent in the book.
Yeah,
You see it. You see way more often.
yeah, in the movie, it's like she just runs into a room, looks embarrassed, and then runs away when Harry says hello. Whereas in the book, she's really just kind of like terrified of him in a
Yeah,
almost cartoonish degree.
she's like really clumsy, and I'm just like, okay, all right. And like, yeah, like this one line that Ron says, like it actually sets up like Ginny's development for the entire book series, where he says, "You don't know how weird it is for her to be this shy. She never shuts up normally." Yep, here we go. Ginny's already different in the book than she is in the films.
Yeah, well, Ginny is different in the books to the films because Ginny is a character in the books. She
Yeah,
has a
yeah,
personality,
yeah.
which
She
is
actually has a personality.
yeah, which becomes worse in later books where she's actually like actively more important to the plot.
We'll get to those later.
Yeah. And then
Mm,
in terms of Mr. Weasley's characterization, because this is the first time we meet him,
yeah.
it's kind of again similar to the film portrayal where he's kind of quite meek. He's clearly a bit of a pushover in
Hmm.
comparison to his wife. He's even more
Yeah.
so in the book because of how scary
Hmm.
Mrs. Weasley is.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, if we skip to chapter 4, we get to one of the biggest differences, and it's at the bookstore scene with uh, Arthur Weasley and Lucius, where they actually get into a physical fight.
Yeah, that I'm surprised they changed that, which I guess like I mean, I know Mark Williams and Jason Isaacs. I mean, they're older gentlemen, but they're not that old. You could have them
They
have a
weren't
scrap.
that old.
Yeah,
I
you
would have
could.
assumed, I think they were like early 40s.
Yeah, they could
I
have had
think,
a scrap in the
yeah,
shop. Come on.
yeah, I know. Yeah, other than that, it's literally beat for beat. It's just when Lucius says, and I thought your family could seek no lower. Yeah, no, he just like leaps at Lucius.
Yeah, it's
and,
so.
and like they actually get hurt, which is crazy. Oh, and the scene with Borgin and Burks, which is a deleted scene in the film, but with when Draco and his father come in, I don't know why they cut that out of the film. If it's gonna like, why did they make it a deleted scene? I mean, I guess pacing, but still.
Yeah, I mean the movie's like what 2 hours 35 or something, maybe
No,
even longer.
it's like 2 hours and 50 minutes long. It's the longest movie in the series.
Oh geez, I mean it's like at that point, it's like you could have either cut something else out and put that back in, or you could have just shoved it in and made it 3 hours. Because I think
Yeah,
it's a good scene for Draco because we learn more about him before we see him with his dad. You know, just
yeah.
seeing him interact with his father and showing that he is a character beyond being the stereotypical bully.
Well, in the book, it's not even like that at all. He's still the stereotypical bully, whereas in the movie, he's actually kind of scared of his dad. And
Yeah,
I think that was like I think it's the way Tom Felton like performed it. Like he's scared of his dad in the movie, but in the book, nope, he's not
yeah.
scared of him at all.
Also, one thing I noticed in the bookshop scene is that in the book, Draco is way more smug when he talks to Harry. He's kind of like, "Ooh, the famous Harry Potter can't even walk into a bookshop without making the front page." Like he's doing it to taunt him and to make fun of him. Whereas in the film, it's like Draco, the way Tom Felton delivers it, he seems like bitter, like kind of he's jealous of Harry getting all the attention as
Yeah,
opposed to making fun
he
of him.
sounds really pissed.
Yeah, he's just like famous Harry Potter can't walk into the bookshop without making a front page. Like he seems proper pissed off rather than just kind of smug. And I think because Rob and I have spoken about this a lot, because he thinks that Draco really should have been redeemed, and whether you think that should have been the case or not, that's up for
I
debate.
do. I do. I think he should have been redeemed because like he got that behavior from his parents.
Yeah, which I think, and just swimming back to what I was saying, it's way more apparent in the film than it is in the books. Like in the book, Draco was just a cartoon bully for 5 books, and then suddenly in Half Blood Prince, it's like, oh, actually, maybe we should make it sympathetic. Sympathetic, I
Yeah,
should say.
no.
And I think the way that Tom Felton delivers that line, it's clear that there's like insecurity there. It's clear that there's like jealousy there in a way that there really wasn't in the books. So I think it's a way of improving the character that I actually really like.
Mhm. Yeah. Um, let's this is more of a minor difference, but it's just one that really stuck out to me on this reread. Lockhart is so much more annoying in the book than he is in the
Yeah,
film. He is
yeah,
so much more intolerable. Like I just want to punch him
yeah,
in every freaking scene in the book.
yeah,
Whereas in the movie, the actor like does such a good job where I can kind of ignore it and it makes me laugh.
yeah. Because it's more subdued. He's not just as cartoonishly over the top as he is in the book. And maybe that plays to Kenneth Branagh's strengths as an actor, where he can kind of still show that he's very smug, but it's in a way that's not completely unbelievable. Like Lockhart in the book
Mhm.
is smug to a degree that like I just find really unbelievable.
Yeah, no, the actor who plays Lockhart, like I think that talent is only reserved for acting. He's not quite a good director, as we've seen with Thor. Uh, but
Oh
anyways,
yeah. Anyway, but also one thing I noticed, or one thing that bothered me, was that obviously Lockhart is visibly a smug little prick.
mhm.
Anyone that isn't in love with him, like in the same way that Hermione and Mrs. Weasley are, can see that he's a smug prick. And you just think like, surely Dumbledore knew this when he hired him. Like Dumbledore wouldn't strike me as the kind of person who would be fooled by Lockhart. So I really can't see what advantage there would be to hiring him as the teacher.
I think what it was is I think he knew that Lockhart was a fraud, so he hired him just to basically expose him.
I suppose that's true. But then at the same time, it's like, especially when Hogwarts is so often like a magnet for accidents, it's like, surely hiring a competent teacher would make more
That's true,
sense.
yeah.
Yeah,
Dumbledore's a shitty headmaster.
yeah. I
And
mean,
that becomes even more apparent in the later books. But anyways,
yeah, yeah. Then again, I guess you could argue he couldn't have known the basilisk would resurface in this particular story. So I guess maybe you could justify with that. But anyway.
that's true. When it comes to yeah, the flying car scene, it's more boring in the book.
Yeah,
It's just
it's not nearly as over the top.
yeah, they don't. It's not fun at all. They like get real tired. They're starving. They're burning up because there's no AC in the car apparently. Like surely Mr. Weasley should have at least considered like cool air in the car, but
Yeah.
eh.
There's also the question, and this is something that bothers me in the film as well, is like Ron and Harry can't get through the barrier. And their immediate thought is, fuck, let's steal Mr. Weasley's car and drive it to Scotland. And I'm just sat there thinking, like, Mr. and Mrs. Weasley are on the platform. Like, surely you could
Yeah.
just wait for them to come back out and then say,
Yes.
fuck, what's happened? We can't get through. Mr. Weasley be like, shit, okay, fine, I'll drive you guys up to Scotland in the car. And it's sort of like that would be the most logical solution to that problem, I would have thought.
But no, we can't have that because that would make too much sense.
Yeah. So there's also, when they get to the school, when Harry and Ron finally get to the school, they bump into Snape like they do in the movie.
Yeah. They don't actually bump into Filch first.
Yeah. Which is also like, when you really break it down, like what Snape is saying is like actually quite reasonable. It's like he's saying, like, you nearly exposed our world. What the fuck were you thinking? If
Yeah,
it were up
this
to me,
is
you'd be expelled. And it's like both the book and the movie try to paint Snape as if he's being like a massive asshole, but it's like
no.
he's really just being generally quite reasonable to them.
Yeah, he could be a lot worse, but at the same time, yeah, he has every freaking reason to be pissed. He's like, you basically nearly exposed us to the Muggles, which is basically a crime.
Yeah, when you really
Yeah,
think
I
about
get
it,
his anger.
when you really think about it, they got off way easier than they realistically should have done.
Yeah,
Like they got detention for one night, and then
yeah,
that was it. It's like they've been punished much harsher for doing much less.
yeah. Oh, one thing I noticed, this is kind of off topic, but the line that Filch says in the film, "Oh dear, we are in trouble," it's actually in the first book. So I don't know why they changed it to where it's actually in this movie and not in the second book. I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, I think in that case, it's just an instance of them like shuffling certain things around
That's
to where it
true.
makes sense. So I don't see it as that much of a problem.
No,
Um,
I just thought it was funny.
Another thing I noticed was when Harry has detention with Lockhart, they explicitly state that his detention starts at 8 o'clock. And then later on, Lockhart's like, good God, look at the time. We've been here for nearly 4 hours. I'm like, sorry, you let a kid be in detention until fucking midnight. Like, what the fuck?
I know. I know.
It's so just like, what? I'm just thinking like maybe Rowling just forgot that she said it was 8 o'clock at the start and then didn't realize how much time had passed.
Yeah, I can imagine like Harry like walking out of detention at midnight and that he gets caught out of bed after hours by Snape and he's like, "What are you doing out of bed, Potter?" He's like, "I just got out of detention, you bitch."
Yeah, it's sort of like clearly like Rowling clearly wanted it to be like, oh my god, look how long he left him in detention. Isn't he crazy? But they dialed up the factor from crazy to just psychotic.
Now, a difference. The detention is actually not the same night as Mrs. Norris getting found petrified.
Yeah, I was gonna
So,
say that leads into
yeah,
another big difference, which is the deathday party.
yeah, the deathday party. And this is when we actually get introduced to Moaning Myrtle in the book.
Yeah, because she's at the party. So for context, for anyone who's not read it, basically, nearly headless Nick goes up to Harry and says, "Hey, I want to join the headless hunt, and I'm hosting a death day party. Do you mind coming along and telling the other ghosts that I'm awesome so that I can join this hunt?" And Harry's like, yeah, okay, I'll bring Ron and Hermione as well. So they go to this death day party, and to be fair, the idea is quite creative. The idea of ghosts celebrating the day when they died, as opposed to the day they
Yeah,
were born.
I do like that idea.
Yeah, and there's also they describe the fact that all the food is like really rotten and disgusting because obviously they're
Yeah.
ghosts; they won't know the difference.
Hmm.
Um, but then as they're leaving this scene, this is where they discover the blood on the walls and Mrs. Norris petrified.
In the book, it actually isn't blood, it's paint. I don't know why. I don't know.
Oh,
I
it's
actually
paint.
think,
I didn't
yeah,
know that.
it's paint. It's paint in the book, which I thought was kind of strange. I'm just like, I think it would have been a little more ominous if they actually used blood in the book.
Yeah.
So I'm glad they made that change. But yeah, and then this is like happening like right after that big Halloween feast as well. So that is why all the students are just suddenly fucking there too.
Yeah. Whereas in the movie, they just all turn up out of nowhere, just like, wow, isn't it convenient that all the students turned up at once to see this very important plot point? And it's like, okay, thanks.
And like in the movie, like the main three, like they had to make up like a really weird excuse as to why they were just there. But in the book, they were like, no, we were just coming back from the death day party.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in the movie, Harry has a good justification because he's like, I was doing detention with
That is true.
Lockhart. Ron and Hermione have less of an excuse. They're like, what the hell were you two doing just wandering the corridors at night?
Oh yeah, I forgot about this one. We kind of skipped this one. We find out that Filch is a squib.
Oh yeah, this is so correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think this is ever mentioned in the movies. Like the
It's in a
concept of
deleted
squibs.
it's in a deleted scene in the second movie.
Oh, is it? Oh, my apologies. I've not seen the extended edition of The Chamber of
Yeah.
Secrets, so I don't know.
I haven't either, but I know this scene exists. But this scene in the movie is actually like directly after like Snape punishes them for the or like berates them for the flying car incident, and they find the quick spell correspondence course in beginner's magic. Um, and I think it's in Filch's desk.
Hmm.
But in the book, this is like right before Nick nearly headless Nick invites Harry to the death day party
Hmm.
because he gets Harry out of trouble by having Peeves basically distract Filch. So yeah,
Yeah.
we find out he's a squib. Where if for anyone who hasn't read the books, a squib is basically a person born from magical parents, but they have no magic powers whatsoever.
Yeah. And there's obviously the question of I've read some people claim that the concept of squibs in and of itself is kind of ableist because it's sort of a not very subtle parallel to disabilities, which is like, I don't know.
Oh,
I I don't know. Because it's like obviously in the world of Harry Potter, two muggles can produce a child that has
that's
magic.
true. That is
Where
true.
so it's like the concept of two people who have magic producing someone who can't do magic. Like that doesn't seem like unheard of. So I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
see it as a huge problem. I don't.
No, I don't think so either.
Yeah.
Um, let's see. Uh, there ain't a lot of there's not a lot of freaking additions in this book. It's like
Mm.
so freaking identical, but I know there's a few. Um, oh yeah, I think it's like right after that first attack. That's when the kids at Hogwarts begin to turn on Harry and think that he's the heir of Slytherin.
Like in the movie, it's the scene where it seemingly looks like he turned the snake on Justin, which is also different in the book because in the book, the snake goes for Justin, Harry talks to it, and then it backs off.
Yeah.
Whereas in the film, the snake appears, Harry talks to it, and then it moves towards Justin. So it's like it's not entirely unreasonable that Justin would think, wait, hang on, why did you make a snake attack me?
Yeah, yeah, that's true. I don't know why they did that in the film. That is
Yeah.
weird. But no, like they immediately start to turn their backs on Harry, like the second Mrs. Norris is found, pretty much in the
Mm.
book, which I thought was strange. It makes no sense. I'm like, bro, he just happened to find her there, and he just happened to be at the scene of the crime. They, the kids at Hogwarts, they just jump to conclusions so fucking fast.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, y'all, calm down. You're not Twitter. Will you please? Now, the scene where the Chamber of Secrets is actually explained, it's not by McGonagall. It's by a character we never see this guy in the movies, Professor Binns, aka the most boring character in the entire series.
Yeah. So for anyone who doesn't know, Professor Binns is, I believe, the history of magic teacher,
Yes.
and he is the only Hogwarts staff member rather, who is a ghost, which
Yeah.
already brings up interesting questions. It's like, is this not slave labor? Because do they pay the ghost? Does he have wages?
I
Does,
don't know. I
does
don't know.
Professor Binns have a bank account? Like, what does he do?
And, like the way his death is described, I think it's like mentioned at some point. It's like so boring. Like he just like sat down in his chair and like fell asleep, and he just died, and then became a ghost, and he just went right back to fucking teaching. Like
Yeah.
what?
I mean,
That's so
although it is kind
stupid.
of funny, the idea of a teacher is a ghost, but they took ages to realize they were a ghost because their life was just so fucking boring, which I think is quite a
Hmm.
funny concept. So like in context, it makes sense that Professor Binns would be the one to tell the story because he teaches history of magic and he would know
That's
about
true.
the history of magic. At the same time, McGonagall explaining it means more Maggie Smith, which I don't think is ever a bad thing.
No, and she's the head of Gryffindor House,
Yeah.
so that would also make sense because she's literally one of like the four main staff members of the school. So I think either way, I mean, we got it explained to us. I
Yeah.
just don't like Professor Binns as a character. He's fucking boring. But anyways, and
Yeah.
yeah.
Like it's reasonable to assume that McGonagall would know what she's talking about and she would know the story.
Just another thing to mention, Colin Creevey is even more annoying in the book. He does not leave Harry alone. Leave him alone. You're borderline stalking him, you creepy ass kid.
Yeah. Because in the movie, he literally, I think he's in one scene and then he gets
Yeah,
petrified. Whereas in the book,
yeah,
he follows Harry around for a good long while and then gets
yeah.
petrified.
A funny scene that is not in the book. It's like really brief. It's right after like the first scene with Moaning Myrtle in the girls' bathroom. Percy actually catches Ron and Harry there and is so pissed at them. And I'm like, okay, dude, back off, calm down.
Yeah. Weirdly, Percy gets a lot more attention in the book than I mean,
Yeah,
in general, he gets more attention. And I think we'll come back to that,
yeah,
particularly in
yet,
Order of the
yeah.
Phoenix.
Yet
Um,
another character in the books who's even more annoying.
yeah.
I cannot stand Percy in the books. Like I just want to ugh.
Yeah. There's also a whole subplot where Percy they keep saying, "Oh, Percy's being really secretive. Like he's been locking himself in his room all summer. He's not talking to anyone. He keeps being really secretive." And then the big payoff is just, "Oh yeah, Percy's got a girlfriend." It's like, really? You spent all of that time saying, "Oh, Percy might be up to something." Oh, he's just got a girl. It's like what? It's such a
I
random thing to
I
keep.
mean, like he's like so embarrassed at the concept of even having a girlfriend that he makes out with. Like, okay, dude, calm down. You're a
Yeah,
teenage boy. All of them
no,
do.
that's the thing. He's a what, like 16, 17-year-old boy. If you had a if
Yeah,
as if a 16-year-old boy has a girlfriend, he's not shutting the fuck up about it. He's letting everybody know. Like,
yeah. Why would you keep that a secret? Like, pious or not, you are not keeping that a secret, Percy. I'm sorry.
yeah. It's like,
No.
I guess the other, oh, he thought Ron, Fred, and George would make fun of him. And it's like, they're your little brothers. Who gives a like,
Yeah,
obviously they'll pick on you, but fuck off.
especially Fred and George are gonna pick on him. But and
Mm.
yeah, just you wait till we get to Prisoner of Azkaban.
Yeah.
I think they're the funniest like they've ever been in Prisoner of Azkaban. But yeah.
Actually, one thing I want to mention just before I forget it. Um, so in the last episode with Rob, we talked a lot about how eventually Hermione becomes like a super duper ultra girl boss who gets everything right, whereas Ron just becomes a bit of a pansy,
Uh-huh.
specifically in the films, which is even worse in this one. It wasn't really a problem in the first one, but it's suddenly like so Ron's role in particularly the first few books is to be an exposition machine. Like he's the only person among the three who grew up in the wizarding world. So
Yeah.
when they need something explained to them, they need Ron. So like in the book, the concept of mudbloods is explained
Yeah, I forgot about
by
that.
Ron, which makes sense because he would know what it means.
Yeah, Hermione doesn't know what it means, but yet in the movie she freaking knows everything.
Yeah, because
Because
it's
Steve Clovis is probably in love with Hermione or something because he just does not stop giving Ron scenes to her.
yeah, like even in the scene where all the pixies break out of Lockhart's classroom, in the book, Hermione can only do one at a time. In the movie, she does all of them at once and they all just go completely immobile. And it's like, okay,
Mary Sue. She's a Mary Sue in the
yeah.
films.
Even in there's even things like Ron explains to Harry what squibs are. He explains why it's important that he's a parcel mouth, but they're all things that either aren't in the movie or they're given once again to Hermione because God forbid Hermione not know something.
Yeah, like the line where like Hermione says it in the movie, like even in the wizarding world, hearing voices isn't a good sign. Ron says this in the book.
Even things like so when Hermione finds out sorry, when Draco calls Hermione a mudblood in the movie, she acts like all upset, like this is something she's been dealing with her entire life. And it's like, you were born to muggles. You wouldn't know what this means. And
Yeah.
quite a justifiably in the book, she doesn't know what it means because she's
Yeah,
like,
she's fucking confused in the book. She's like, "Wait, what did you call me? What?"
yeah. And then obviously after the fact, when she learns about it, she's upset. But it's like in the moment, there's no reason for her to be that visibly upset.
I mean, it kind of started in the first movie with that, but it's starting to get worse. It gets worse.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay, I'm gonna save my anger for Prisoner of Azkaban. Uh,
Because I know exactly what moment you're talking about, and we're gonna get to it.
We will talk about that certainly. Um, let's see. So the Quidditch match where Harry gets his arm broken by the bludger, it's basically the exact same, except in the movie it's much more over the top, just like the car scene.
Yeah, where
Um,
instead of the bludger just sort of chasing him around, instead it smashes through all the stands in the stadium and it knocks people to the ground. And then
yeah, and
Hermione has to come out of the stands and make it explode to make it stop
uh,
attacking him, and it's like fucking hell.
here we yeah, yet another moment where they make Hermione like super ultra boss girl. Like Jesus Christ, we're in the book. Fred and George are literally the one who wrestled the freaking bludger into the box. No, and like the thing, I noticed like the game ends almost instantly after Harry spots the snitch by Draco's ear.
Hmm.
In the movie it goes on for like an extra 5 fucking minutes because they're literally chasing each other through the stands. You never catch me, Potter.
Even like his line, training for the ballet, Potter. It's like in the book that line happened because Harry was having to do all sorts of like embarrassing pirouettes and
Yeah.
somersaults. So his line made
Whereas,
sense. In the
yeah,
movie, he's
whereas
like
it,
training for the ballet.
he's
It's like,
not doing anything. He's just
yeah,
sitting still on the broomstick.
like young man, what kind of ballet events are you going to where there's a giant cannonball blowing through all the multiple wooden stands? Like, what?
The giant spider scene is also more over the top in the movie, of course, because of freaking Rupert Grint's face. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
I'm never getting over that.
But
Um, oh man. Yeah, when I reread the book and I got to that giant spider scene, I was creeped the fuck out. I
yeah,
hate spiders just like Ron does. I
yeah,
could not. Oh,
yeah,
no, it was like a damn horror movie.
yeah. But it's again made more over the top because in the book, they're attacked by spiders. The car comes to save them, and then they get back to the castle. Again, in the
Mhm.
movie, the car comes to save them, but then the spiders start chasing after them. But then one of the spiders grabs Ron, and then Harry has to save Ron, and they have to. The spiders chase them through the forest, and it's like fucking hell, like throwing things.
Um, yeah, but it's also kind of over the top of the book as well because the way they actually meet Aragog in the book, spiders actually abduct Harry, Ron, and Fang and carry them to freaking Aragog.
Oh, I forgot it. They don't follow the spider. They don't follow the spiders.
They don't. They get fucking abducted. They get fucking kidnapped by the spiders. Like Jesus, please, you're not the Green Goblin, please. There's one big scene in the book that I definitely want to bring up because I don't know why I love this scene. It's so hilarious. The Valentine's Day scene.
Oh, with the dwarves, right? Yeah.
Yes, his eyes are as green as a fresh pickled toad. I'm never getting over that. Jesus Christ, Ginny, don't ever do poetry, please.
Which is
Please don't.
yeah, it's a very odd scene, and I'm kind of glad they
Yeah.
didn't put it in the movie
Yeah.
because I think it would have just been a bit silly.
Oh yeah, definitely would have been a bit a lot of silly.
So obviously, this is the book where we're introduced to Polyjuice Potion, which is the potion you drink and you can change your appearance.
Mhm.
So the movies play very fast and loose with the rules of this potion. So in the movie, Harry and Ron drink the potion, and they look like Crabbe and Goyle, but they keep their voices.
Yeah, this is actually a change that I preferred in the film.
Oh, really?
I actually prefer that they kept their original voices. It made it a lot more creative with the editing and
That
all
is
that.
that is true. But I would question that only by so the books explicitly state that their voices change because they
That
say,
is
"Oh
true,
wow,
yeah.
like oh wow, Ron, your voice is so much deeper." But
Yeah.
in the film, they keep their voices. But then in Goblet of Fire,
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
when
Mad-Eye
Moody,
Moody. Yeah.
sorry, when Barty Crouch Jr. is disguised as Moody, he gets Moody's voice because, like, why wouldn't you? You've taken this person's vocal cords when
Yeah,
you've taken their voice.
but then again, Mike Newell, the director of Goblet of Fire, he's an incompetent bitch who didn't even bother to read the fourth book. So,
Yeah,
I'm gonna blame that on him
yeah,
and not anyone else.
we'll get to that. And it's also like, surely having the actors for Crabbe and Goyle speak the lines, and then having Daniel Radcliffe and Rupert Grint dub them over, like surely that's more effort on their part than if they just let
Yeah,
the actors for Crabbe and Goyle talk.
yeah, I agree. It is more effort, but I don't know. It's actually a change that I kind of liked because I'm
Yeah.
like, hey, it's creative editing. I like this.
Hmm. So one thing that really bothered me both in the book and in the movie is just the sheer level of contrivance with how nobody gets killed by the basilisk.
Yeah,
Because it's
it's
like,
oh,
so Hermione sees it through a mirror, Justin sees it through nearly headless Nick. Mrs. Norris sees it through a puddle.
Colin sees it through his camera.
Yeah, and it's just it feels like a very convenient way to not have any of the characters die.
Yeah, it's just yeah. That always bothered me. It's so heavily convenient, and
Yeah.
even like I've literally heard people saying like, well, like if conveniences didn't happen, we wouldn't have a plot. And I'm like, still, it makes no sense how none of them happen to freaking die. They
Yeah.
all just happen to look through reflections. It makes no sense.
Yeah. It's also like the book, like I guess the reveal is that the reason Harry can hear the basilisk and how it's been killing people is because it's moving through the plumbing. And I'm sorry, how fucking big are Hogwarts pipes that they
I
can accommodate
know.
a massive snake?
How?
But also, how is the basilisk looking at people? Is it literally just like popping its head out of the pipes like a fucking the plants from Super Mario? Like what's
Peekaboo. Peekaboo, I see you. No.
it's just
Uh, yeah. And like the movie like over exaggerated the basilisk. In the book, the basilisk is only like 20 feet long. It's not a very long snake, but in the freaking movie it's like anaconda sized.
yeah,
Like
which is like
Jesus
I mean like it's
Christ.
a big fucking snake, but like it's not fucking Godzilla,
I know.
the movie makes it look
Uh,
like. I don't know. I mean, talk to me about like the reveal, the Tom Riddle reveal, because I feel like it
oh,
plays
so
out
good.
more or less the same, and it's a good
It
reveal in
it's
both.
yeah, it plays out literally identically. It's just it has more exposition of how like Voldemort basically possessed Ginny. Um, oh no, the reveal is it's still good. It's
Yeah,
good.
yeah,
I love the anacronym Tom Marvolo Riddle. I am Lord Voldemort.
yeah. It
It's
is
still
odd though.
genius.
Yeah, it's odd though that Voldemort hated his Muggle father's name, but was apparently fine with an anagram of it. Like it's sort
I
of
know. I
okay.
know. I just Uh, no, I really do like Voldemort's backstory, and we'll definitely be getting into that in the later books, especially Half-Blood Prince. I can't wait for it because
Yeah,
his backstory is probably my favorite part of the entire series. But
yeah.
I,
I love
I,
those things.
yeah, I still like the reveal that he's Voldemort, because like it's something you would have never expected. Like, oh, this good-looking prefect who's like really, really smart, who has so much going for him. Nope, he turned out to be Voldemort.
Yeah. And it's sort of like similar to the Quirrell reveal, where it's like
Yeah.
it's not super in your face, but it's like surprising, but not in a way that's completely out of nowhere. You're like, oh, okay, okay, that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah. I think it's done really well. And I gotta give it, oh well, okay. I don't really want to delve into like plot. Well, I mean, I can delve into plot points of the future books.
Yeah, yeah, go
Can
for it, go
I?
for it. Yeah,
No,
go for it.
I think I'll give the movie props, like, it's like the diary is one of the Horcruxes, and the way that they basically take like get rid of the diary in the movie, like it's basically how you would get rid of a Horcrux in the plot anyway. And the fact that they knew this before Half-Blood Prince was even published is just crazy for me.
Yeah. You have to wonder though, it's kind of similar. You know how we talked about Hagrid riding Sirius's motorbike in the first book? You have to
Hmm.
wonder, like, was this something she planned in advance, or did she just remember, oh wait, Harry stabbed the diary with a basilisk fang. Let's make it so that, you know, Horcrux's kryptonite is basilisk venom. So you have
I
to
don't
wonder,
even know anymore.
yeah, like, did she? I mean, I guess that in that regard, like, if you have to really think about whether it's foreshadowing or if it was an accident, like, it's probably done its job well.
That's true. I like it. It basically is the exact same. It's just a little bit more over the top. Lockhart losing his memory is even funnier in the book. It's
Yeah.
so funny. It's so funny in the book. Like he's even more of a fucking idiot the second he loses his memory, and Dumbledore is like so full of himself about it. Oh yeah. And I know this basically happened in the first book, but here we go with Dumbledore just giving Harry like 400 million points to Gryffindor every chance he gets.
It's like Harry Potter sneezed 10 million points to Gryffindor.
Harry Potter almost died 500 times, 1 billion points to Gryffindor. I just, yeah, this was the start of it because he gave Ron and Harry special services to the school, which I do understand. They saved Ginny's life. So yeah, they deserved it, but 200 points apiece for Gryffindor? Okay, you're just biased at this point, you bitch.
Yeah. Just swing back
No.
to the Tom Riddle thing. One thing I noticed is that the movie played up the kind of Harry and Voldemort parallels a lot more than the book did.
Yeah, which I
But
actually prefer in the movie.
yeah, because in the movie there's the bit where, you know, Harry is under suspicion of being the heir of Slytherin, and Dumbledore says, "Is there something you want to tell me?" And he says, "No, sir, nothing." And then very
And
well, off you go. And then later in the Riddle flashback, there's a nice callback where he says the same thing to Tom Riddle. So the parallels are a lot more obvious in the
yeah,
movie. Whereas in the book, there
yeah,
really isn't any kind of, there was never any kind of suspicion that Harry was the heir of Slytherin.
yeah. It's just out of nowhere in the book, whereas in the movie, it's actually built up really well and it sets up that connection later on in the series, like
Mm.
even better. And I'm like, okay, I got to give Columbus and Clovis credit for that. They actually did that quite well. So another difference. Um, okay, this bothered me in the movie. Harry, I know you are not that freaking stupid to talk directly to Dobby when Malfoy is right there.
Yeah,
You are not that stupid, Harry. In the book, he doesn't do this. In the movie, he does. So this is the family you serve. Like, bro, don't
yeah,
shut up, shut
yeah.
up.
It's also very kind of spelling things out to the audience. Like, just in case you didn't get it, like, Dobby belongs to the Malfoys. Like, the fact that Dobby
Yeah,
stood next to Lucius Malfoy clearly isn't enough of a confirmation.
I know. It makes me so mad.
Mm.
Um, I was gonna say the moment where Dobby is basically freed. I'm not gonna lie, I was listening to the audiobook going home from school, and when I got to that part, I literally cheered in the car. I was so happy. I
Yeah.
was like, yes!
Yeah, it's a
One
very
of the
it is quite a satisfying moment in both versions, I think. It's a very satisfying moment.
Yeah, I think it's one of the best like quieter scenes in the entire series.
Interestingly, in the movie, like when Lucius goes to attack Harry, like you can audibly hear him
Yes.
saying Avada Kedavra.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, no.
Yeah,
One, I know you're not going to do that to a child. Two, the unforgivable curses have not even been brought up in the series yet.
Yeah.
They don't bring it up until book 4. So why are you automatically starting to do Avada Kedavra? Like, bro, set it up in another movie. Like, why are you just okay?
Like I've read this, I'd have to sort of corroborate it, but I think I read somewhere that Jason Isaacs, when he filmed that scene, just said the first thing that came into his head. Like he wasn't instructed to say anything particularly by Columbus. Which makes you
Hmm.
wonder why they allowed that in, where someone was like, actually, we
Yeah.
can't use that take because you've said the wrong thing. We need to do it again.
Yeah.
It's interesting that they left.
Um, yeah. Now, I'll say that the movie has two of the greatest improvised lines of dialogue ever. In that scene where Lucius is like, "Well, let us hope that Harry Potter will always be around to save the day," and Daniel Radcliffe's like, "Don't worry, I will be." He just came up with it on the spot. Genius.
That's a great line, yeah.
I hate that I really hate that it wasn't in the book. I
Mm.
wish it was in the book. Like Jesus. Um. Oh yeah, the book doesn't have that really freaking awkward clapping scene.
Yeah, where Hagrid comes back and suddenly everyone's like, "Yay, Hagrid's back!" And it's like, okay, I get Harry, Hermione, Ron, and maybe the other Gryffindors as well. But like, why is the whole school just like, "Yay, Hagrid"? Like,
Yeah,
it feels like
it's
a
cheesy as hell.
yeah, it felt like a very kind of forced movie moment of like, "Yay, this is the bit where the audience will stand up and clap because Hagrid's home."
Yeah, and just like in the first book, like this movie doesn't end at the book doesn't end at Hogwarts. We get to platform 9 3/4. He goes back to the Dursleys, yada yada yada.
Yeah. At the same
Um,
time, the movie was nearly 3 hours long. I don't think
that's true.
they needed
That
to
is
wrap
true.
things up. Um,
In that case, I do kind of prefer the movie's ending just in regards to like the last shot. I'm glad we ended it at Hogwarts and not anywhere else, but I still hate the stupid clapping. Stop fucking clapping. It's
yeah,
Hagrid. Just quit clapping. It's not a big deal. Calm down.
yeah. I think we've kind of covered everything from my end. I don't know about you.
I'm trying to think. Shit, I thought I had something. I don't know.
I mean, I guess that speaks to because even with Philosopher's Stone, there were a lot of differences we could talk about, whereas this one's really faithful to the book. So
Yeah, it is so faithful. Like
yeah,
I gotta give Columbus that.
I think it's easily of all the films, I think it's the closest adaptation in terms of like
Hmm.
loyalty, book loyalty.
Yeah, it's one of the most faithful book adaptations I've ever seen,
Yeah. It's
which
like
is crazy.
they cut the Death Day party. It's probably the biggest change.
Yeah, and they cut the Valentine's Day scene, but we didn't really need that scene anyway.
Yeah. And obviously
Um,
some bits were sort of either toned down or made a bit more over the top.
yeah, I don't think I can think of anything else. I think just overall thoughts.
Yeah, I think just to quickly wrap up my thoughts, I think overall I enjoyed it a lot more than the first one. I think that the mystery was a lot more central, which I think helped. It was better paced.
Hmm.
But yeah, overall, I don't know if I have a great deal more to say. I think it's generally a pretty good book.
Yeah, I was surprised that yeah, it's better than I remember it to be. It's one of the better books. I've always been a big Chamber of Secrets defender, like either way.
Oh, for
Um,
book and for film.
for book and for film, people like just they never bring up Chamber of Secrets,
Yeah, it's
and I don't
kind
know why.
of. I mean, I don't know many people who hate it, but I also don't see many people saying it's their favorite either.
Yeah, they just don't bring it up. They,
Yeah.
they they forget about it, and I'm like, no, don't forget about it. It's actually good.
The movie I found, I think because it's such a faithful adaptation, I think a lot of the pacing really drags in a way that
Mm,
the book didn't. And also
yeah, I get that.
the conveniences really just kind of stack on top of each other,
Hmm.
especially with
Yeah,
like how the basilisk doesn't kill anyone. As for
yeah.
the book, I enjoyed it a lot more than the first one. It'll be interesting to see how when we get to the end, which book will turn out to be our favorite, and maybe we'll even do a discussion about that.
So yeah. A spoiler for me. I'm still hoping it's Half Blood Prince. I hope it remains my favorite.
Yeah,
Please,
Half Blood Prince was always my favorite as well. So
like
we'll see how that
please.
turns out.
I want it to stay the same, but anyway, no. Yeah, I enjoyed it a lot more than I remember. Um, I like when it comes to my rating, like I think like a 4.5 out of
Oh,
5. Like
nice.
it's like tied with the movie. Actually, they're both a 4.5 out of 5.
Damn. Okay.
Um,
I think
But I think I kind of prefer the movie just a little bit, just a tiny
okay.
bit. I
Yeah.
prefer the movie a little.
Yeah, I think the movie I'd say is like a 5 out of 10 because I think it is quite sluggishly paced in places.
I love Chamber of Secrets. I love the movie.
Yeah. And the book I actually enjoy. I would give it like a 7 out of 10.
Yeah, we forgot to bring this up. Yeah, this is when house elves are introduced. This is
Uh,
when this
you
is
know,
when the slavery comes in.
yeah. I mean, it's not touched
Ugh.
upon as much in this. I think we'll get to it in Goblet of Fire.
Oh God, oh no.
Yeah.
We'll get to that in Goblet of Fire.
But yeah, generally speaking, I think we both came out pretty positive on this one.
So anyways, I don't think there's much left. So be looking forward to Rob's review of the movie Chamber of Secrets. And then if he wants to join us for the Prisoner of Azkaban book, if he has time, be looking forward to us talking about the book Prisoner of Azkaban and then his review of the film. So
Okay. Well, thanks for listening, guys.